Woohoo! Oh, we are live, and this is a really special day. We're going to do the investing book club today, but I've actually got friends. I have friends, everybody.
Woo!
Coming to you live from the Gold Coast, we have Misha Hall and Georgia Verry. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yes. So
Oh, this
excited.
is so cool. And Mish, I love this because we're like, basically, you were like, can I come on this show regularly? Or can we do this together? Because I want to be held accountable to kind of developing my financial literacy and stuff. And I'm so excited about that. That's so cool.
Totally. Well, this is, to me, this is a life hack. Like,
Yeah.
how better to educate yourself in finance and to improve your financial position in life and plan for the future than learn alongside an incredible friend and get to learn in front of people and hopefully inspire people at the same time.
Absolutely.
That is
I'm
what we
so
call
blown away.
win-win.
It's genius. And then you bring friends as well. Like you bring a whole
The
crew with you.
best. The best.
The best. Absolutely. I'm super excited. So, what I was thinking today, right? Because at the moment I'm reading this book by Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is like the kind of friend of and high up in the same company as Warren Buffett. I can't even remember the name of that company. But anyway, the point is this guy is a known kind of savant and really smart in his investing. And the chapter I'm up to is really interesting. It's about the psychology of misjudgment. So it's like why we do dumb shit, why we make dumb investment choices, what causes people to do that. And I thought that could be an interesting kind of chapter to kind of review today. You girls open to that? Have you got any better ideas, or should we do that?
I've made some dumb bitch
Yeah,
mistakes.
have totally made some dumb bitch mistakes.
Oh my God, I am the king. Like no one can make dumber decisions than me. But I try to learn. Like I try to. One of my kind of hacks is like whenever I make a really dumb choice, and there's a financial value, I look at it like, okay, that was my uni course, and this is how much it cost me to go to that course. And I try and not make the same mistakes repeatedly. How about you? What do you do
That's
when you make?
a great mindset, Anton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
We'll steal that from you.
Yeah, we will
Yeah.
I will definitely be stealing that.
Awesome. I'm very happy about that. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Present. What I'm going to do first of all is get the Charlie Munger book up. Charlie Munger, because what I do as well is I kind of take notes as I go of things that stand out to me, and then every once in a while I just pause and then we chat. So I don't know how I've never done this in a group before, so this is going to be new and exciting. But I'll just type stuff. It's just kind of nice and big on the screen. But if you think about extra stuff, just tell me to stop and we can discuss it. Like the more I think interactive this is, the better it will be. Like the more discussion we have versus just listening to a book. So whenever something stands out to you, or you've had a similar experience, or you've noticed it in the wild, or whatever, or you've noticed it for you, just yell out, "Hey, stop!" and I'll stop. All right, sharing my screen. All right. By the way, people who are viewing, welcome. It's really nice to have you here on this Friday. I'm really excited doing book club with Georgia and Misha, and we are streaming across quite a few social media platforms at the moment. And if you get a little snippet out of this that saves you from making a dumb decision today in life around investment, then I'm really happy for you. And if not, that's fine too. Maybe you can teach us something. All right, here we go. I'm just going to do a quick play and then just tell me if you can hear it okay. All right.
Doubt avoidance tendency.
Did you hear that okay?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
It's counterproductive for a prey animal that is threatened by a predator to take a long time in deciding what to do.
Just on a meeting. Sorry.
Charlie Munger. Poor Charlie's Almanac, 2005. Researchers believe that the doubt avoidance tendency exists because a brain's processing load can be substantially reduced if a person rejects doubt. Daniel Kahneman considers doubt avoidance tendency to be a System 1 activity, which Michael Mauboussin described as follows. System 1 is your experiential system. It's fast, it's quick, it's automatic, and really difficult to control. System 2 is your analytical system. Slow, purposeful, deliberate, but malleable. When it comes to investments, avoiding doubt can get a person into serious trouble. One example is the people who thought, why investigate an asset manager like Bernard Madoff when avoiding doubt is so much easier? After all, he managed money for many important people. Surely they looked carefully into his operations and background. The confidence of entrepreneurs bolstered by doubt avoidance tendency creates positive benefits for society in the aggregate by generating productivity and genuine growth in the economy, even if legions of entrepreneurs may fail. Nassim Taleb put it this way: most of you will fail, disrespected, impoverished, but we are grateful for the risks you're taking and the sacrifices you're making for the sake of the economic growth of the planet and pulling others out of poverty. You're the source of our anti-fragility. Our nation thanks you. 5. Inconsistency avoidance tendency.
All right, so doubt avoidance tendency. So I think what I got from that was like there's this kind of instinct system, like this instant response kind of thing we have, and sometimes that thing is don't trust my doubts, just go for it. You know what I mean? Like, and if we do that, like many people do that and then pay the price, and as a result, most people fail. Like they don't take the time to put their instincts to the side and do their due diligence, basically. Is that what you got out of that?
Yes. And I think about it a little bit like the older I get, the more I answer questions with nuanced replies or like maybes or it depends rather than black and white, like yes or no. It's always this, it's always that, it's never this, it's never that. And I think that's the same system. Our brains want absolutes and rules that we can apply, right? Like, for example, the ketogenic diet works for everybody, you know, and then going around recommending it to everybody and, you know, things like that we see in fitness culture, but in all areas, right? In investing, the similar thing, right? One person tells you this is going to be a good investment, or you read one article that says, you know, double down on Bitcoin, whatever. And you're like, sweet, one bit of information, it's easier for me to make a decision and go yes, and then be all in, and then tell everybody else about it to affirm that, than it is to go, let me question that as the default, rather than just being like, yes, let's make a decision, because we want these like absolutes. They feel good.
Absolutely. Actually, that's a really interesting point. And like one of the things I noticed, because I bought Bitcoin back in like 2012, okay, a long time ago when it was $70. And one of the things which I really notice nowadays, because I'm hanging on to it, is there's just as much news that it's going to go back to zero as there is that it's going to go to 1 million. There's just as much news. And like I used to pay attention to only it's going to go to 1 million. Now I've just stopped paying attention to it all because I just realized that there is just so much information in any direction you want to go. Like, and again, like the ketogenic diet thing, it's like some people will say it will work for everybody. Other people will say it will work for nobody. Some people will say it will work just for some people. You know, like there's just so much information out there that you can always find to justify whatever your gut instinct is. You know, is alcohol good for you? You know, etc. You know, you can find whatever you want out there.
Honestly, Anton, like all of that kind of just reiterated a point where we need to, as a whole, it feels as though the more we pay attention to our gut instincts, the better off we actually are. And if you feel something, then it's something to be explored and something for you to question. And in life, whether it be friendships, food choices, split-minute decisions, relationship choices, financial decisions, it's easier for us to just take someone else's advice, right? And it's a much more difficult and time-consuming route to question those choices and to question that advice and to seek out your own education. And of course, like you just said, there, you know, like there's always some for and against, and some information saying that it's good and some information saying that it's bad. But if you're going to make a decision, and if you do have the time to sit with it for a moment instead of going, oh, I have to do this really quickly because it's just easier, it's better to explore. It's better to read the good content and the bad content. So that way, when you do make your decision, it's an educated decision. And it may not be your gut saying something is good or bad. It may just be a communication from your body saying, this is something to explore.
Yeah, that's actually coming kind of full circle, like, because this is, as you say, this is about slow down, but there's also a lot to be said for like, listen to your first instincts, then do your due diligence. It's a combination. So I could see that. I could see that. Interesting. All right, let's keep going, shall we?
Let's.
Awesome. All right. Oh, by the way, I'm thinking like I find about half an hour is a good sweet spot for doing this book club. I don't know. I used to do an hour, but you know, I feel like it's a bit of an overload. Just keep knocking it forward is the way, I reckon, with good discussion. So let's do half. Oh, by the way, to those people who are watching, these girls are coming at us live from the Gold Coast in a van they've hired. So they're down probably overlooking some sort of beach, and it's pretty cool.
Literally. Yep. Actually, 2 seconds. So this is just outside there.
Oh yeah, gotta love the Gold Coast. I love that place. Wow, you'll just be doing book club, learning about investing, and then diving back in the. Is it? What's the weather like up there at the moment?
It's sunny.
It's sunny. It's always sunny in Philadelphia and the Gold Coast. All right, let's do it. Here we go.
The brain of man conserves programming space.
I'm just going back so I can get the name of the next
impoverished. But we are grateful for the risks you're taking and the sacrifices you're making for the sake of the economic growth of the planet and pulling others out of poverty. You're the source of our anti-fragility. Our nation thanks you. 5. Inconsistency avoidance tendency.
Inconsistency.
The brain of man conserves programming spaces by being reluctant to change. Charlie Munger, Harvard University, 1995. People are reluctant to change even when they have been given new information that conflicts with what they already believe. Inconsistency avoidance tendency is another often useful heuristic because starting each day with a fresh mind about everything requires too much processing power. Unfortunately, as is the case with every heuristic, what is mostly helpful can sometimes be harmful. The adverse effects of this tendency can be made worse when it appears in combination with the previously discussed doubt-avoiding tendency. The desire to resist any change in a given conclusion or belief is particularly strong if a person has invested a lot of effort in reaching that conclusion or belief, and or if the change will result in something that is unpleasant. This is a major reason why progress in many professions tends to advance one funeral at a time. An example of this phenomenon can be found in the many companies which refused to recognize that personal computers or mobile phones were a threat to their business. Absence of the inconsistency avoidance tendency among some people operates to benefit society. For example, company founders who are not wedded to old ideas can sometimes create innovative new businesses more easily. As another example, an executive may cling to an idea he or she has publicly advocated even after facts come to light proving the idea false. One way to avoid this problem is to be very careful about what you say in public. Also, be aware that once you say something in public, you may be blind to disconfirming evidence. Mark Twain's statement comes to mind on this tendency. All you need in this life is ignorance and confidence. Then success is sure. Some entrepreneurs often don't know enough to think that something can't be done. So once in a while, they actually do something that is completely unexpected. As the old saying goes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. 6. Curiosity tendency.
All right. So inconsistency avoidance tendency. So it's like we are reluctant to change even when we have someone who's just saying, no, this is not going to work because we've already put the effort in, we've put the thought in, we've done the due diligence, or we've already invested some money.
Anton, what do you think about the time of day that you make those decisions? Because I heard the term decision fatigue in that little soundbite, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about decision fatigue, I think about the phenomenon, well studied, that the frontal lobe, which is, our most advanced part of our brain, the youngest part that makes those critical decisions, that does analysis, gets about 4 hours worth of processing time on a good night's sleep. So if you're making decisions all day in a job and your job is not investing, and then at the end of the day, you make your decisions about finances, I wonder how much that also skews you towards not wanting to see conflicting information or not wanting to change your ideas because your processing power is just like done. Do you do like an early morning thing to combat that, or have you thought about it?
Definitely. I think it's a really interesting point. Because to most of us, investing is a side hustle, right? So it is something comes first, whether it's the relationship or the kids or the business or the job. And then, as you say, you come home and you might look at some markets, and then, you're probably going to default to the easiest possible choice as the path of least resistance. For me, I'm a 4:30 a.m. every day get up, and I do the most important things before 6 a.m. ultimately is how I operate. There was a study done which was really fascinating to me and a bit sad, but that like magistrates make a lot more decisions about who goes to jail later in the day. Like you don't want to be late in the day because the magistrates are short-tempered and they might have even had alcohol at lunch. There's all sorts of factors going on, but you're absolutely right. I do think it's a really critical factor. So 5 a.m. club all the way, all the way for me. How about you?
Look, so Anton, I work for a financial tech company, and a lot of the technology that we actually facilitate in Australia specifically received a lot of bad press about 2 years ago when so it was just an absolute schmozzle of news that came out saying that something called supply chain finance was the small business ombudsman actually came out publicly and said supply chain finance is terrible.
Wow.
Large businesses like Rio and Telstra were involved, and they got dragged through the mud because of a couple of suppliers who made complaints about them. None of the information that was exposed was factual. But because of how much negative press was put out, they cancelled the program, which actually had a really negative effect on the small businesses that they were supplying finance to at a much, much cheaper rate than what they can get through any financial institution. And even to this day, 2 days on, every other country in the world sees supply chain finance, invoice factoring, dynamic discounting as something that is so imperative to small businesses and to suppliers, right? So if you want to partner with your suppliers, it's actually super important. If you want to make sure that they can continue basically trading, you have to help them out. And that negative bias and that inconsistency avoidance tendency, because it was in the press and because it received like all this negative news, even though you put a business case in front of a business and you're like, you can actually create an opportunity where you can facilitate $25 million worth of finance that you can provide to your suppliers, because it received negative press a couple of years ago, they won't touch it no matter what research you put in front of them. And now things are changing, and now there's like all these reports that have come out from the same small business ombudsman saying that it's okay and it's actually good. They refuse to change, and no one wants to be. And also there's something called sustainable supply chain finance, and I've been trying to partner with, you know, like we're talking like ASX top 200 companies only. And no one wants to be the first person to get their suppliers on board. They don't want to force anyone into anything. And it's, you know, like they see the information there, but because in the past it was bad and they don't even know the full story, they're just like, no, I don't want anything to do with it. So I think like avoiding, people don't want to be the first. And they also, if something was ever said negative about it, they don't even want to do the research to find out what actually happened.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What I got present to in what you just said was something was the norm and accepted. Then some press came out, and then everyone shifted away, and then that became the norm.
Yep.
And then so the what's norm is like shifting in chunks of time where people can forget the history. Like, I don't know, we only retain a certain amount of history, and then that is the norm as far back as we can be bothered to remember. So right now, supply chain finance not accepted, you know, not loved, but before was loved, and then there was a shift against, right? And now maybe at some point people will forget that again. Like the inconsistency avoidance tendency happens in chunks, where as a collective community we can kind of remember whatever the consistent stand is, whatever the most people are as a collective group for, you know, anything that defies that is thrown out instantly. Interesting, very interesting. How about you, Georgia, before we move on? Anything you want to add to any of that?
Let's move on, I reckon.
Okay, let's move on. All right, here we go. The next one, I just want to go back like a bee's dick. I don't want to go back. Let's see if I can go back. Yeah. No, I think I've really blown it.
Invested a lot of effort in reaching that society. For example, company founders who are not wedded to old ideas.
Okay.
All you need in this life is ignorance and cuddly trouble. Charlie Munger, Poor Charlie's Almanac, 2005. I was born innately curious. If that doesn't work for you, do something that is completely unexpected. As the old saying goes, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
This is it.
6. Curiosity tendency. Curiosity can provide both fun and wisdom, and occasionally trouble. Charlie Munger, Poor Charlie's Almanac, 2005. I was born innately curious. If that doesn't work for you, figure out your own damn system. Charlie Munger, Wesco Annual Meeting, 2000. Experience tends to confirm a long-held notion.
San Diego.
What happened? What am I missing?
No, go find your own damn system.
System. I think that is true. Like we need our own kind of operating system. But who isn't curious? Like, is there anyone who's not curious?
So many people.
Oh my God, so many people.
Wow, holy shit.
This is safe. This is what I know. I don't want to hear anything. No. Even if you've got research to put in front of me, I don't want to hear it. This is what I've known forever. Carbs are bad. Don't you know that carbs are bad, Anton?
Yeah, this is what we've all just been learning, right? People cling to their belief systems.
Wow.
People think they are their thoughts. People think they are what they believe.
Yeah.
And changing that means like not being true to what other people think of them, and they might potentially lose people around them, and it's scary as fuck.
Now that you put it like that, I see it. But before that, I had a view that everybody was curious, you know. But I guess you know why? Because kids, like, you know, I think I look at kids as the perfect human being. But you know, we are all curious at some point, right? We definitely are. And then I guess it's beaten out of us at some point. We're told to stop being so curious. Interesting. All right, continue on.
That being prepared on a few occasions in a lifetime to act promptly in scale in doing some simple and logical thing will often dramatically improve the financial results of that lifetime. A few major opportunities, clearly recognizable as such, will usually come to one who continuously searches and waits with a curious mind that loves diagnosis involving multiple variables. And then all that is required is a willingness to bet heavily when the odds are extremely favorable, using resources available as a result of prudence and patience in the past. Charlie Munger, Wesco Annual Meeting, 1996.
I fucking love that. Like a few
Yeah.
major
Oh,
opportunities
dude.
will occur in your lifetime, like life-changing opportunities, and you got to bet heavily when they appear. I love that.
Yes.
Game on.
What do you
Many
think
things
about?
in life involve
Sorry,
trade-off.
sorry, my bad. Go on.
He said, and I agree, right? Bet heavily with resources that you acquired prudently and responsibly, right? So you have to have the capital sitting there kind of ready to go, right? Somewhat liquidated to be able to go like, boom, like I'm taking the bet. And
Yeah.
I wonder if that's too where like people go wrong, right? They're like, this is the amazing opportunity, and like even though I wasn't prepared for it, I don't want to miss out, so I'm going to borrow or exhaust myself, put myself in a stressed situation.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a false piece of information out there that there's a Chinese symbol for luck, which is preparedness meeting opportunity. Apparently it's not true, right? Apparently this symbol doesn't mean that or whatever. But anyway, preparedness and opportunity coming together is the key, isn't it? You got to be ready when the opportunity's there. So yeah, I'm with you on that. But I think all in is all in. If you have $1, then all in for you is $1. If you have $1 billion, all in for you is $1 billion. But there's still a relative all in.
A source of what is good in life can also be a source of what is bad in life. That inevitable trade-off applies to curiosity. And there is nothing like failure and mistakes to teach a person the right approach to curiosity. The wise investor will acquire a sort of muscle memory about curiosity based on actual experience. Curiosity about life and restraint about difficult decisions are part of Munger's approach to life. Seeking more information about a topic, even though it has no present value to a person, is a natural human drive. One can speculate that having this information has option value. However, the price of too much curiosity can be high. Finding the right balance in things involving trade-offs like curiosity is a key part of acquiring wisdom. An example of a problem arising from too much curiosity would be a tycoon who is curious to see whether he or she can finally be the person to make a long-term profit in the airline business. There is an old joke on this plan. How do you become a millionaire? Start as a billionaire and buy an airline. Buffett has a toll-free number he can call, which will talk him out of investing in airlines whenever he gets the urge. Curiosity can also cause an investor to engage in too many activities, or a business owner to offer too many products and services, but end up failing by offering none. Startup founders can end up repeatedly pivoting their business, i.e., changing business models or business categories into oblivion if they overload on curiosity. At the same time, curiosity can lead to important breakthroughs for a business. Striking the right balance on something like curiosity requires judgment. 7.
All right, that's fucking awesome. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about any of that?
Anton, so I recently did I've got my property license, but I've also got a buyer's agent license, and in the buyer's agent course, so with property investors and buyers, people who choose to do it themselves, right, who are curious and they say, I want to learn about property, I want to learn about investing. Typically, an average buyer will spend 6 months looking for a property And that's not because they don't have the right property. It's because they will think that they're researching the right area, and then they'll find a house that they like, and they will miss out on their dream property 8 times. Like on average, 8 times.
Jesus.
Because, 8 times. And they try and find the right thing, and they end up paying, I think it's something like the average buyer will end up paying around $90,000 more than what they intended, and will have to redo their loans a number of times because they missed out on the right property. They don't have enough knowledge in the market, and they're not a property professional, right?
Mhm.
So because of these things and the curiosity tendency, there's this avoidance of involving a professional a lot of the time for people who are super curious. They're almost too curious. And unless you want to get a property degree and you want to become a buyer's agent and spend every waking second watching the market in a specific area, you're not going to know what's a good price and what's not. And that will cause you to miss out. And then they have this fear of actually missing out on the property. So they go in with a much higher offer and end up doing themselves a disservice, as opposed to paying, the average buyer's agent, I think, is around a 10 or 15K fee, but they do all of the work for you.
Yeah. They get you to the end game much faster and much more efficiently, and save you 90 grand by the sound of it. So 75 grand on average.
Who knows what they're doing, or a mentor who knows what they're doing, and paying them that fee because they've done it before, they know what they're doing, and they've got that experience on the ground, as opposed to when you first become an entrepreneur and you're like, I'm just going to give it a go, and then you make all of these curiosity tendency decisions.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. That's so cool. How about you, Georgia? Anything you want to add?
Well, I mean, I run a business. I made a lot of curiosity-based mistakes, for sure.
Yeah.
I have started and shut down bits and pieces because we were spreading too much. The message got diluted, right? And I think that's super valuable to learn by experience. But if I think about where like the perfect world on that would sit, would be, having mentors and being curious enough to ask them questions. Again, not defaulting to an authority bias where you're like, you must know everything, therefore I'm not going to question you. And again, that's like the previous principles we just spoke about, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, asking them questions and being like, well, what do you think about this? Maybe we try this, like being curious about things in that way. So you do hit a sweet spot, right? Because it's good to make mistakes. I think some of the mistakes that I've made, even though they were mistakes and we stopped doing them, maybe they exposed me to, people in another market who I wouldn't have otherwise connected with, and they introduced me to somebody, or like, we decide to get into apparel and I'm like, what are we doing this? Like, we're not ready to be doing this. This is a huge time suck. But now our apparel's all over the place and it starts conversations. It's
That's
never
true.
so black and white.
Oh my God, you girls' rash guards are like everywhere I go. So
they
absolutely.
are. But they're a distraction from our core business, which is a service provider, right? We're not an apparel provider.
No,
So I'm not super focused on doing a lot of that type of work anymore because the amount of time we invest in it versus the immediate return on seeing clients, which is what we need at the stage that we're at, just isn't there. But it's not all bad, right? It's definitely not bad that our business name is all over the place.
Absolutely.
So it's good to be a little bit curious and probably bet, somewhat safely around your curiosity. It didn't bankrupt us to do the project. We thought about the way we did it. We didn't buy stock up front and then try and sell it. We sold them and then purchased the stock afterwards so that no matter what happened, we weren't going to be out of pocket. But it was still a mistake. So it's like a measured mistake.
Yeah, well, it's fun, wisdom, and occasionally trouble. And it sounds like there wasn't much trouble. It was great fun. You got some wisdom. Yeah, and at the same time, it was a bit defocusing. It's like walking a razor's edge by the sound of it. I like one of the things I really see is the amount of people that I I believe in marketing. Don't get me wrong. I love marketing. It has its place. But the amount of clients that come to me with their marketing as their primary view and their never-ending curiosity in what people will think about their brand and their business means that they never start. Like the amount of clients we deal with that we actually take money from, and I don't like it. I try and talk people out of it, where they're trying to get the perfect logo, the perfect wording, the perfect everything, which has its value, right? But then they'll pivot because someone else will say that they don't like it, and then someone else will say they don't like it. They've got this. Their curiosity is going down the path of getting 1 million views of people. Not a in theory, it sounds great, but it's not great at the expense of never ever starting and spending money going backtracking. Which the amount of times it's happened is just too hard to count now, and really. That's why I say sales first, then marketing, even though I know you need marketing to fill a funnel. But I think that the curiosity about how one presents or how one presents their business is really detrimental to a lot of people. That's the thing that I get present to in that. It's like, no, get something started, trust wallets, not words, prove that you can get money in the bank, and then build from there, money first.
100%. Who cares how many followers you got if they're not buying? Also,
Yeah. And who cares if your logo is not pixel perfect? Like, do it in paint. Just make it. Do whatever.
Definitely.
Just get going. Yeah. Don't use it as an excuse. That's the other thing. Too many people are curious at the expense of action in my world as well. Like continually studying and never getting on the court with that. That's going to have a huge negative impact. Well, we have spent an amazing 36 minutes and 42 seconds. I am so inspired after this. Really.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
What is your takeaway, Anton? What's one thing you're going to do differently this week?
Well, I'm just going to keep inviting the three of us to do more of this. This is way more fun, and that is the key piece. Like, I'm learning a lot more today. I'm much more engaged in this process. So people. I love people, especially you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We love you too, Anton.
We love you.
How about you? What's your takeaway?
I think what I was the thing that I was saying about where I was like, what time do you do things? I used to prioritize making decisions early in the morning and doing critical thinking. And I think lately I've got a bit sucked into the whirlwind of running a business, just doing the most pressing tasks first, which are just tasks, right? I know what's required. I'm just ticking them off, but I'm so anxious about the to-do list that I'm like, get the tasks ticked off rather than working in the business first. Rather than working on the business, I'm working in the business first. Yeah. So my thing that I'm going to take away is trying to do the first part of my day after I meditate and get myself in a good space, working on the business, then I can work in the business.
I love it. That's amazing. Yeah, don't do the task list, do the critical thinking. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's one of these things. These guys spend a heap, like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, a large portion of their life is devoted to just thinking, not doing. That's where they've discovered a lot of their value. How about you, Meesh? What's your takeaway?
Definitely not getting stuck in curiosity for one, and also like the first piece, taking a little bit more time to like pay attention to what my first instinct is, do a little bit of research, and then just be like, okay, if that hasn't changed my opinion, go with my gut. And
interesting. That is not what I got from that first piece, but that's why we're studying this. But I like it.
I truly felt that from there.
Yeah. I'm with you, actually. I'm with you.
I get stuck in the pros and cons, and then if I spend too much time researching it, which I can do, and that's annoying. Like, regardless of what happens, I feel like, you got to make. I feel like the key message that I've taken away is you got to make some shit decisions, and it's okay. And
That's
you
so
just got to
fucking true.
accept that you got to make some shit decisions and move on.
paralysis by analysis is there's no cheese down that tunnel.
Yes.
For sure. So, yeah. So I'm with you, even though the book didn't really say that. So
we take what we want from books, right?
you take what you want.
that's right.
We listen to
There is
every
no
book,
right and
we
wrong.
would be doing the opposite of what the book said, right? We'd be listening
Yeah.
to every authority because books contradict each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's so true. Will you girls, I don't know, make this a weekly thing? Because I would love
I
that.
totally
Or
am
when
on
you can.
board.
No
Yeah,
stress.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well,
Awesome
I'll see you next
dynamic,
Friday then, hey? Awesome.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much, Anton.
Cheers.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, ladies. Bye, everybody.
Bye.